What a creation the portable PlayStation was for on-the-go gamers. PS2 level games on the toilet was seriously impressive for 2005. Imagine being a young lord sitting at home playing Pimp My Ride on your PlayStation 2, clearly one of the best video games to ever be released. It's an extravagant experience where you can drive around playing make-pretend TV show minimum wage employee, goofing off like a grand old drooler. So who in their right mind wouldn't want to have this on a trip? The world needs a PSP version of Pimp My Ride where it's somehow far worse than the console version. Not really revolving around the core gameplay, since it's the same exact floor eater bullshit, having you go around trying to flaunt the automobile to literal cretin oafs who are amazed to see the most mediocre vehicle drive by them. This game also lets you entertain yourself with the fabled Ghost Ride the Whip minigame, watching this robotic zombified knucklehead dancing in the street next to his car, wearing his little punk-ass jersey saying pimp on the back. All that is the same on the PSP. What makes it worse is how the handling of the vehicles is horrendous. The situation is truly an anomaly, to say the least. Why Christine is doing donuts when I'm pressing no buttons at all or taking control of the vehicle, letting me see the car scratch its nose against the wall, is beyond me. How you can make a video game that has you repeat the most bare bones, simplistic of simplistic objectives in this perpetual flashbang, oversaturated world be so unresponsive is a marvel that not even Spider-Man or any of his bitch-ass friends could understand. Similar to how I cannot understand why PS players were given Mind Quiz. I turned it on, created my profile, made myself dead. Hello, Jake Conway. I'll be handling your brain age tests. Nice to meet you. At least it's honest. When I did my little exam, I got a brain age of 48, which isn't too hairy for someone who is, at the time, 94 years old, but I don't entirely get the use of a game like this on PSP. With the DS, it was slightly more reasonable with the touchscreen, plus the console had the technical power of a potato linked up to a supercomputer. The games looked like sopping wet strands of cheese on that thing. With the PSP, you could play like Tekken 6 in the shower. The amount of gremlins who were throwing away their toy boats or whatever treasures they'd bring into the tub due to this had to be enough to fill up a village. Why would a person want to sit there on this console pressing shape buttons to answer elementary school level questions over games of that caliber? You know, it would have been nice if they could have at least made the characters have more charm to them. When playing Brain Age, if you answered a question incorrectly, you always felt as if you needed to lock the doors because the disembodied head will come by for a visit to treat your corpse as a voodoo doll, bending it like a pretzel. We don't have that here with Mind Quiz. Just a $20, $30, $40 CD that's essentially worthless, which is something you could say about all these games in a video like this, I guess. Like, I seriously love launching a game to witness a grand opening reminiscent of a Phoenix Games title with a very odd looking character flipping a gang sign on a hand with 3 fingers. He's got a clown nose and boxers with hearts on it. Kazook. As Charles Brown would say, good fucking grief. Unexpectedly, this is one of those party game extravaganzas filled with what one might say a high school peaker's creative mindset level of minigames. All the expected classics are here. You got dragging a crosshair on a screen, trying to protect your repugnant looking girlfriend with a Cheshire smile. We can abduct humans in a UFO while an oversized alien randomly decides to bust a few moves or dry humps the air in front of them. You can smash baseballs at these hideous creatures attempting to enjoy themselves at a pool party. And of course, we have multiple variations of pressing face buttons. It's a true moldy feast for kings. When you're using what is essentially Pong to fill one of your game slots in a minigame compilation title, the battle is already lost. It's time to pack it up and retire if you're making plays like that. What's more sad than the existence of that, that though is how you need to unlock a large portion of these minigames by earning money, where a lot of these minigames only give you a small handful of shekels, forcing you to continuously play ones that do give you money on repeat to unlock a new game that is presumably not going to be fun. Obviously, this nefarious tactic was implemented to have people play longer, since I'm sure they were aware these games alone wouldn't be enough to hold anyone over or compete with much else on the market. What you're unlocking is not an event of some kind, igniting the tribalistic flame inside your head to signal the other monkeys to come over and play. Yes, there's actually a multiplayer to this thing, but you'll be for damn sure playing this by yourself. There's no way you could manipulate your friends to spend their crack money on this. Unless it was for the ladies, of course. We all know how the room temperatures will act in that case. They would undoubtedly dump the last bit of what was once rent money on Winx Club Join the Club if they had a chance to hear the Grill's soothing voice once more. Their game opens up with what I think are clips from the show. You then select your absolute favorite piece of paper from it. You watch the most legendary sword scuffle this universe has ever seen to then enter a Mountain Dwellers make-pretend Tony Hawk's Pro Skater competition, tearing down a hill on a piece of wood, playing as a character that I didn't even choose. Why make a character selection screen if it doesn't even matter who you pick? None of the mini games I played had me controlling the one I chose. It was only in the level selection room. And yes, if it wasn't apparent enough, we are blessed from the world's overlords with yet another one of these glorious pieces of art where I honestly have a hard time distinguishing which one of these two sludge fests is worse. A real argument could be made that Winx Club is far more of a sulfur-scented stone mined from the trenches of a Bangladeshi river than Kazook was, thanks to the missions, we'll call them, being even more simplistic clam chowder in the skull experiences. I myself cannot say it was the most gripping time remembering the placement of 2 items on a shelf or memorizing the outfit of Sad Lady to swing my sword of doom at her. But on the flip side, at least Pong isn't here, so they didn't scrape the bottom of the barrel too much. Now, I'm not entirely sure what Winx is, how popular it was, or what the target age demographic was for it. Whatever it happened to be, I'm not gonna sit here and gobble up that the game was for kids hogwash, since a lot of companies out there have already tried that shit plenty of times, releasing games that are clearly low-effort shovelware with zero passion, thought, or care put into any pixel doctored into the disc. I mean, seriously, is it really excusable to be blatantly cloning Zuma and gorging Oreos down Winx's throat to fatten the game up, making players replay the same exact minigames to have them grab a couple flowers? Or how about playing Simon Says boogieing down to defeat a boss with a semi-transparent meatball? I wouldn't say it is. If I received this as a kid, I would for sure be waiting for my parents out in the parking lot, and if they don't come out, lock the doors. Don't buy your kids shoveled up goop. Buy them games for real alpha gamers, like Monochrome Racing, a title that will for sure have them living it up on these vomit-inducing tracks. I mean that in a literal sense, by the way. Monochrome Racing has this bizarre camera angle shifting, bobbing up and down nonsense that is an instant trigger to anyone who's susceptible to being dominated by motion sickness. So not only are you stuck suffering through that debacle, the game itself is also an atrocity to control. I'm not seeing a single droplet of milk on these vaudeville filtered ass tracks, so I don't understand why I can barely control myself. It's not just the player who will struggle with this either. When you see the AI also having a hard time wheeling around the track, what else needs to be said? This fact makes races only last around 20 seconds, where the AI usually sends themselves off screen to nap in your dust. It's actually kinda surreal. You barely get to play the game due to everything transpiring so quickly. After around 10 minutes of game time, I was a quarter way through the 85 tracks that I initially believed was a ridiculous amount. What's funny though is that I had no idea I was progressing because all the tracks look exactly the same. During the moments you're able to play for longer than a sneeze, you'll realize the side areas are plastered with repeated 2D buildings, pipes, or blurry black splattered paint. None of the tracks are realistically unique from one one another. We couldn't even get a color change. And I know the definition of monochrome is one color, black and white, maybe grayscale, but that doesn't need to be literal. Why not use it to set the tonality rather than setting the vintage filter to maximum, then calling it a day? You might as well just be staring at a piece of paper at this point. Their way of attempting to sprinkle in some lorries, spicing things up, was adding upgrades that I use loosely, along with unlockable vehicles that don't matter whatsoever. The races are over in the blink of an eye, regardless of the choice made, so there's no reason to put any thought into anything. Just play, 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 sending your brain cells into a haze. Or go grab Micro Machines V4 to eat that up, witnessing the much better game monochrome racing was clearly trying to emulate. The contrast feeling between the two would skyrocket you straight to the stars, making you feel like an Iron Man caliber superhero. And the best part is, you don't even need to buy his game, which is great news for anyone interested in saving a hefty chunk of change. But if you did happen to dish that cash out, you do of course receive that deity adjacent feeling while trudging through this Modern Warfare 2 enemy of my enemy is my friend ass area. You're easily able to mop the floors with these enemies who literally cannot kill you. It doesn't matter if they have rockets, pistols, boomsticks, fists, they could have metal melting acid propelling from their eyeballs. Antonio is not dying and will continue running that mouth until the level is completed. It's a worrying sign for any video game seeing this stuff. Win, win, win can only be fun for so long. Then when you see flying through rings, it makes the situation worse. I thought it was a rule of thumb not to do anything similar to this for one very specific reason. Thankfully, it's not a persistent feature. As with the never dying for the most part, Iron Man's destruction will eventually come while he's struggling to control himself in the air. As we know, as impressive as the PSP was, there were some limitations with not having a second analog stick. When you're playing a game that has you doing a lot of aerial combat, maneuverability is hindered quite a bit since you're expected to move your camera around with the face buttons rather than an analog stick, and they don't give you an option to change it. On top of that, whenever you want to descend, you need to point the camera downwards to look in that direction instead of having a dedicated button for it. This makes your rumbles contained in the smeared war zone get hairy in record time. It's what ended up killing me the most, while I did my best to accomplish my overly exhilarating missions of going through recycled areas breaking boxes, or my unrivaled favorite, a 15-minute long unpaid babysitting session following a truck on a road, waxing the shit out of enemies that tried standing a chance against everyone's favorite McDonald's colored figurine come to life. As I continued playing this, I was wondering if the goal for Iron Man here was to create some form of a cinematic experience rather than a game that would make players be honored they owned a portable PlayStation. If that's truly the case, I would be gracious if a 500-word essay could be turned in whenever, because I just want to know why they do such a thing on a handheld console. Let's be for real, Iron Man is sickening. It's a PSP title. The game looks fucking gross, so I thought it would be at the utmost importance that the core gameplay carries the game. But apparently, that's just an esoteric ceremony only performed by a select few shamans in the business. It's not to say you can't have a good narrative game on a handheld console, but no one's saying cowabunga with this shit. You're not winning either way with this one. It's times like this when a person gets punched in the mouth over and over and over, playing lukewarm party games or vicariously living through Ronald's favorite demon, where they're forced to resort to a life of crime, or at least pretend to. Hence why we have Gangs of London. The gang I decided to dip my toes into was EC2, and you know, I'm glad I did. This guy is speaking in a familiar tongue for all the Neanderthals out there. Tia's man may be a big shot in the music industry, but just understand me, Chantel. Me run the EC2 crew. Holy ooga booga. If you look closely enough while playing, you'll find more of this surfer lingo sprinkled throughout the game to help drive the point home. Once I finally reached the 5-course meal, it was leg dropped onto me me that Gangs of London is a GTA clone, where you indulge yourself into the life of your chosen gang. With EC2, you begin by stealing an armored van from an airport, murdering as much of a police force as the PSP could handle, as you always appear to do in these gang-related titles. Practically all of these early 2000s third-person shooters make Whitey Bulger and his group of dunce cap-wearing goblins look like kindergarten students picking their nose in the back of the class. While they were sitting there selling opiates, talking up ladies of the night, the big man here was dishing out bullets, buy one get one free to cops with his little group of thugs by his side. A feature that I think was supposed to be a point of intrigue. The singular reason it's not is because these guys are straight D students. When I reached this mission, that's soft locked for me by the way, it was telling me at the end to clear enemies in the area when there weren't any. This same thing happened in the airport mission too, but the game fixed itself there. Here, that didn't go down, so I couldn't progress, making me restart to do it all over again. And when I did, I kept struggling to make it back to the end, wondering why it was so challenging all of a sudden. Come to find out, when I died, I get to take control of my buddy running into a wall or sitting in the corner doing nothing, miles away from all the action, trying to collect an easy paycheck. Not only was I dealing with this, you additionally have this lock-on mechanic during fights that decides to work whenever it feels like it, forcing your rumbles to be a lot more difficult than they should be. Playing without auto-aim might as well be impossible since your character has the movement ability of a gentleman with wheelchair legs. It also didn't help how the underhanded tricks Gangs of London kept delivering of impeding my progress with a bug continued to occur regardless of how many times I made it to the end of this parking garage. Fortunately, there were other missions I could select from in the menu that don't really stem much deeper than what we've seen already. You get a few car chases, defending a location against a rival gang's attack, or running down a small area, putting people into life-threatening chokeholds. So you may be wondering at this point, if this is a GTA clone, where is the open world? Well, you select that in the menu as its own separate thing, where you can drive around doing nothing. There's no objectives, missions, odd jobs, nothing at all. Each of those things are their own selections in the menu as well, like playing this zombie slaying minigame where not a single zombie spawned in while I played it. I'm assuming these guys missed the mark on why GTA works as a game. Usually the little pointless, dumb, off-the-cuff things are to get money to buy something or immerse yourself in the world, maybe progress in some way. In Gangs of London, there's no real progression or fun with anything you do. It's just a bunch of random bite-sized moments that culminate to nothing. Why all these objectives couldn't take place on the big map we're given is amongst the plethora of questions asked by Socrates. Were they trying to stray as far away from being called the GTA clone as much as they possibly could while still clearly trying to emulate it? I'm deep in the woods with no map. Not even a golden compass. Cause if I had one of those, I'd have the ability to tear through the woods, possibly experiencing some animal on animal action, as we can see here, that has a very bizarre delay to it. In my very first piss puddle depth battle of spamming square on repeat, I noticed my character getting stuck, unable to move after I finished my attacks, or simply after moving in general. How or why this occurs could not be uncovered, but I do find this to be quite the oddball considering how little you actually do while playing Golden Compass. After I stopped partaking in these skirmishes, there was a bit of platforming, having me use a few of my animal friends to glide over a gap or whatever as an attempt to make the game more interesting, but none of that matters when you're running in a linear path. Arctic Takeover is riddled with input lag and janky movements. I can't really say this was the best opening sequence to get players hooked in. It's more anxiety inducing than anything else. Level 1's formula was run, press triangle to jump over a gap, press square a couple times, run again, to inevitably scrap against a boss that is the video game version of a person telling you they cooked a meal when all they did was press the number 3 to watch that bitch spin around in a microwave. What's strange, however, is that I never saw another fighting section again after this. It was only walking simulators, listening to the protagonist go on spiels while performing the most menial tasks that could be given to a person, regardless of the console they're playing on. I'm sitting here walking on 5 back-to-back balancing beams, games, stumbling into an obnoxiously drawn-out, over-glorified Oblivion speech check level, pressing a button to grab green balls or avoiding red ones, to listen to more jargon that, to be real, went in one ear and went out the other. I was barely paying attention to what I was doing after about 15 minutes of playtime. I had X videos pulled up on the other monitor to watch something more stimulating until I saw live action cutscenes. That's when I found out Golden Compass is a movie. I had no idea, I've never heard of it, but honestly, I'm not remotely close to stunned. It's family tradition to have a movie game hardly be a game, yet sell it for 30 plus clams to make that cash, giving the consumer the most bare bones, uninspired waste of money you can. Although, in this case specifically, I don't know if you can blame the development team. Let's be serious for a nanosecond. How the fuck is anyone supposed to make a game about Golden Compass? From what I saw, I don't see a reasonable way to make a game about it without deviating so far away from the source material, you might as well not bother making it in the first place. It's genuinely not a joke to say Golden Compass is worthless. There's nothing to talk about. Actually, nothing happens in this game. Not a single emotion would be evoked out of a person with this. No frustration, no happiness, just apathy. We're at the point you might as well have just released the movie as an on-the-go watch instead. It wouldn't be heresy to do that. Back on the Game Boy, they had those little shits dumping Shark Tale or SpongeBob on a GBA cartridge. Just do that. There's only one thing that would be more pathetic than what the Golden Compass fans were given here, and that's a release from gaming's Four Horsemen, where shockingly, the PSP avoided all of them, aside from one by my discoveries. Somehow, some way, Little Britain is on PSP. Why any person would ever want to get this on the go, let alone get it on the PS2, is the single most bewildering thing I've ever seen. If there's a person out there who was slurping melted butter from a sippy cup who sat there stomaching the entirety of Little Britain on PSP, please let me know. Or were you too busy playing your more expansive games that are still kinda a hit or miss, unfortunately, if you're looking past the overall idea of having a PS2 game on the go. The singular analog stick limitation did hinder quite a few titles, mainly shooters like Star Wars Battlefront. As I mentioned earlier with Iron Man, the whole aiming your camera with face buttons can be quite the irritation since you can't be precise with your shit while playing, and I'm more than positive this had some people foaming at the mouth or making their eye twitch in anger. However, back during this time, I'd say it's worth looking over that blunder due to the impressive nature of the core capabilities for what you were getting. Plus, it wasn't that challenging to uncover a game that didn't suffer from this filth. With that said, I'm curious to hear all of your thoughts on these games, or maybe a few memories of worthless pieces of gunk that you got to experience during your time on the PSP that gave you the urge to brush your teeth with a can of WD-40. Make sure to leave those down in the comments. Big ups to all of our channel members who go above and beyond each and every month, generously supporting the channel even further. If you would like to join them and get early access to content, hit the join button right next to the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Thank you all so much for watching. As always, take very good care of yourselves, and I hope to see you all again in the next video.